is Béatrice Moissinac, as you can hear from my accent. I come from Zendesk. Oh, it's not on the slide, so you really don't know. I am the AI security principal security engineer. It's a mouthful to say that I am an AI researcher that works with the security team. And actually, this previous talk was great. It's an excellent leeway to what I'm going to talk about. At the end, one of the takeaway was collaboration. And so this talk is about how to actually collaborate. So an AI, a software engineer, and a security researcher walk into a bar. It starts as a joke, and it ends with concrete recommendation on how to make that collaboration works between all of those people. So my background is very different, I think, from most people in this room. I am a researcher in AI. I have a PhD in computer science. All I have done in my life is just AI, 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 and I am now entering the world of security. And so to me, the way I see AI is actually a toolbox with which you can do plenty of things. For instance, I've worked on satellite coordination. I have worked on this is a nutrition app for sports nutrition for high school people. We used AI for that. We used it to analyze student computer usage to help them better succeed at the university, to do some analysis on patents for the financial industry, to do a fire simulation to teach students to survive a fire in their dorms, etc., to do bird song recognition. You can do anything with AI. What you cannot do is not collaborate. None of those projects could have been possible if just by myself as a data scientist. You need to have the subject matter expert. So now, entering AI security, you need to have this collaboration with the security people. But we have diverging views. We have fundamentally diverging views, and that is the problem that we are going to address today. So we have a lot of diverging views. First, in terms of expertise, both security researchers and AI researchers are very siloed. Those are subjects that are very complex, very highly specialized, and very siloed. Then the data. From a data scientist perspective, data is inert, whereas from a security person, it's potentially malicious and must be treated as potentially dangerous. From a software engineering perspective, data scientists usually have weak software engineering practices, whereas security will tend to have much stronger security and software engineering practices. In terms of risk acceptance, in machine learning, we have a whole concept of probably approximately correct versus uncertainty in security is highly undesirable. The infrastructure maturity, we are barely emerging a sort of MLOps, whereas we have a very mature tooling suite in cybersecurity. And then finally, the governance maturity is at its infancy in terms of AI governance, whereas we have a culture of transparency with NIST, CVE reporting in cybersecurity. So as you can see, people are pulling in two opposite directions, and we are going to have a hard time making them work together unless we do this. So first, my first recommendation, after 15 years of experience, is to build familiarity, not fluency. It's important for people to be able to understand each other in terms of, oh, is it working? Here we go. In terms of what are their methods, what are their vocabulary. One of the first projects I did was SQL injection detection model, and I loved to call it my threat detection model. And of course, my threat intelligence people were like, no, it's not a threat model. Anyway, so we have to use the same vocabulary. So first, you need to build that understanding. You need to build introductory material. We talked about education during the panel. This is what it looks like. Introductory material. Teach your security people what is machine learning, but vice versa, teach what is security to your machine learning people. Have demo sessions, have reading groups about AI security papers, have mentoring. This is not just my experience, it's actually based on HCI research. Human-computer interaction. So academics and the industry have done a lot of experiment to figure out how can people better communicate. So this is based on my experience and also science as well. Map and align the terminology. As I said, my threat model, that's one thing. A model in machine learning is very different to what a model is in cybersecurity, but it goes very, very far. So you have to map and align all of your terminology to be sure you speak the same language. And then finally, we also talked about, I heard people say that in the panel, and I very much agree. I put the same thing on my slide. You have to educate as the why of the AI lifecycle. Yes, it is software, but it is software that is different. The lifecycle of an AI product is different from any other software. You have to explain that there is complex discovery work, that labeling is expensive for those who still, use labels instead of throwing an LLM at it. The results are uncertain. And those are non-standard software engineering problems. So there needs to be an education on the side of cybersecurity in order to be able to achieve our goals. Second point, be together. So build cross-functional teams. I think my boss, the CISO of Zendesk, is a genius to have hired me, an AI expert, to be embedded in his security team, because that truly facilitates a lot of the conversation with the AI teams, because I can speak both languages, both the one of security, the one of cybersecurity. So do not be afraid to embed people or have them be together in some sort of organization. Have offsites. In my previous organization, I used to work for Auth0 by Okta. They used to send us at Cancun for a week, everybody together. I used to have a different slide, and they were like pooling together in the pool. It was great. Just imagine it. It was amazing. It was a great slide. Anyway, so if you do offsites, have offsites together, plan together. Because at the end, you want to build together. So how do you build together? Going back to this education, you can, of course, have your traditional team building, even online, even remote, you can do plenty of things. Have hackathons, even mini hackathons. I find that the one that works the best is oftentimes all of that complex discovery work that needs to happen, and you need to have a subject matter expert involved, like a security person, for instance. Having like one-day hackathon where it's just about discovery, not necessarily building, is very useful to build that understanding of the vernacular, to build that understanding of the methodology. So let's take a concrete example of how we can build together. Let's look at a triangle of a data scientist, an AI system, and a subject matter expert. Let's say a cybersecurity expert, because you're trying to build some type of monitoring. Actually, from the last talk, that's a great example of how do you build this machine learning-based monitoring of your agent, for instance. So you are going to build your model. Your algorithm is going to predict an output. We want to be able to produce, to show the output to the subject matter expert with the context of the decision. Using this, the subject matter expert can give detailed feedback to the data scientist, who can then do model refinement. I think model refinement, everybody knows more or less what it is, as well as producing an output. So I want to focus on how to do those two steps well, because it's not just about ChatGPT giving you like this train of thoughts or whatever it is, because it's not what it is. So first of all, there is a ton of research. This is more than 15 years old. We have been in machine learning. Explainable machine learning has been a topic of great interest for many, many years. So there's a lot of research that shows you how you can have a model explicitate the reasoning, or at least the steps that were taken in the math of the algorithm, in order to explain why the decision was taken. So don't reinvent the wheel. Train your data scientist to use the explainable AI frameworks that already exist. Use the HCI body of research, the very extensive body of research that already exists. Here's a few of my favorite articles. Look at the date, 2013. This is very old research. We know a lot of things. LLMs have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed that. And again, explain the why and highlight the value. Why is it? Explain to your data scientist why it's important that they focus on explainability. I know that LLMs looks like black box, etc., but it's a little bit of a way to exonerate themselves from the burden of having to do this work. So don't let your data scientist tell you that it's not possible, because it is. It's just more work. The second part, so the previous one, sorry, was to give the context. The second is now, okay, I'm a security expert. I see the context of the decision. I'm like, okay, I see the algorithm didn't understand this or misunderstood that, etc. So now I need to give feedback to my data scientist in a way that is concrete, constructible, etc. So again, train your data scientist to use the human-in-the-loop HCI best practices. Again, there's a substantial body of work. Don't reinvent the wheel. You just go on Google Scholar. There's plenty of actually very well-written papers about those things. There is research that continues to be published on the topic in order to explain the why and the high value. Maybe it's last, I forgot. Next, plan plan together. So we are building familiarity, but not fluency. We are being together. We are building together. We also need to plan together. And so something that is very important is that oftentimes I see that all the time in organizations is that my product team is going to build up an AI and then the security team comes in like 2 days before it goes live and we have to do a security review, etc. This and this work of urgency, this does not work in the long term. If you want to have nice collaboration between people, you should sync your roadmaps and align your priorities such that security, AI security, legal and compliance, even, let's be crazy, also is part of that road mapping process so that there is time for people to work together. When you when you create your documents, your architectural documents, etc., add those questions about AI security in it since the beginning. It shouldn't be the last step before deployment. It should be one of the first steps. So if you do that to plan together, if you have the person in the room who can say, oh, and by the way, for security, we should think of doing this. This will work much better. At the end of the day, if you design together, if you decide together, and then you build together, your teams will just work more efficiently instead of being this tug of war all the time as to, oh, well, product wants it, so we have to like rush through a security review and then completely mess up something. So an AI, a software engineer, and a security researcher walk into a bar. One day, probably I will make a version where there's actually an end to this joke. Instead, I only have a recommendation for you, which is to build familiarity, not fluency. You don't need a security expert to become a rockstar data scientist. You don't need a data scientist to become a rockstar security researcher. If they become that, you won't be able to pay them anymore. And there will be... So pull people together, no matter what. You know, if you have a big budget, send them to Cancun. Strongly recommend that one. If you have a small budget, do mini hackathon with exploratory work. Do a team building exercises, anything that you can do such that people create those connections where both in terms of the expertise and that their personal professional relationship, it will be better, more lubricated, if I may say. And then finally, do cross-disciplinary planning and resourcing. It's not just about planning, it's also about, you know, bringing in people, like, you know, hiring someone like me in a security team. That was a bold choice, but I think so far, he's very happy about it. Huge HCI and AI research. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is something that the researchers have been talking about for more than 15 years. People have PhDs in that topic. So there's really not much to invent right now. You just need to go on Google Scholar. There's blogs. There's so much resources that tells you how to do this. Team building. People underestimate this, but actually it does really work. Do activities that are centered around the theme that you're trying to build. You know, if it's a hackathon about AI security, if it's a hackathon about security just by itself or with your AI agent, etc. It does work. It does take time. It does take multiple times, and it does take a certain type of personalities as well. But you know, work at it. And then finally, for your discovery and innovation, that does not happen without collaboration. All of those projects I was showing you about the satellite, the birdsong recognition, etc. If your data scientist works in a silo, he or she is lying to you. This is not a good approach to have a data scientist who is blind like a horse, you know, like this, with just the pure data without the context, without the expertise around that data. It is not good science. It is not good practice. And they will produce a model that is more likely to be biased, that is more likely to not perform as expected by the end user, which is probably the expert, to put in the equation. Thank you very much. I have 1 minute.